everyone. So today we're going to try something maybe a little bit different. I'm not sure I've seen this on YouTube before. I'm sure someone's done it, but I haven't seen it. We're going to try a relax and learn with me ASMR. I think that's what it's going to be called. If it's not called relax and learn by the time it comes out, then I've changed my mind. But don't worry, this is not going to be boring school-based learning. No. This is going to be weird, interesting, science-based learning. I promise. So, stick around, listen, and I hope you enjoy. So what are we going to learn about today? You are going to learn about 6 of the weirdest places which animals live. And I promise you, these are weird and creepy. So, let's start. Now the first one I'm going to read off my screen because I can't quite remember all of this off the top of my head. But this first one is a parasitic barnacle called Saculina carcini. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. But basically it takes over a crab's existence. So they actually live inside a crab's special place, if you catch my drift. And they sprout tendrils that reach inside the crab. They grow into the crab and they spread through their body. And they even coil around the eye stalk of the crab. Right? Basically taking over its existence like some sort of mind-controlling zombie. So this is like a weird mind-controlling zombie fungus that lives inside a crab's foo-foo. I told you it's weird. Now they live off the dissolved nutrients from the crab's blood. And there's basically they live in a little bulge on the back of the crab where they would normally hold their offspring. So they've essentially replaced themselves where the baby would be for the crabs. Now, the female crabs believe that this is essentially their children, and they actually nurture and look after this parasitic barnacle as if it was their own child. So it's just, this barnacle has taken over their foo-foo and controlled their minds to make them believe it is their own child to take care of it. Madness. And they just basically take care of it. Now, it gets weirder because these barnacles are gender-bending barnacles, and they can even parasitize male crabs. And when they parasitize the male crabs, it actually makes the male crab's abdomens grow bigger to the size of the girth of a female crab's abdomen. So they then also start to act more like a female crab and look after this offspring parasitic barnacle. So they literally start changing the physical appearance and behaviour of the crab to make it more female. Absolutely insane. Mind controlling, genital taking overing barnacles which change the gender of male crabs. Insane. That's number 1. But it gets weirder. This next one, I am sure you have all heard of before, but have you really appreciated the intensity of living there? Maybe not. What am I talking about? Where am I talking about? I'm talking about hydrothermal vents at the bottom of the ocean. Now they are located where magma from the Earth's mantle comes up through the crust, and it basically superheats seawater and ejects it out at incredibly high temperatures. So the temperature of the water that these organisms live in ranges from anywhere from 60 degrees Celsius up to 465 degrees. That is insane. 4 times as hot as boiling, right? Now the pressure down there is beyond imaginable too. So most hydrothermal vents are anywhere around 2,000 meters below sea level, and the pressure of that is 250 times that you would be feeling atmosphere. So the pressure is roughly 262 kilograms, pressing down on every single square centimetre of your body. So imagine a square centimetre of area on your body, and every single one of that, there is 262 kilos of weight pressing down on it. Now I've done a little maths here. I don't know why I've done this maths, but I have. So the average human head is around 633 square centimetres in size. So that is roughly the weight of 60 cats pressing down on every single square centimetre of your body. So if you work that out for your head, that is the weight of nearly 40,000 cats crushing your head. And that is the level of pressure that these organisms deal with. So they are dealing with unbelievable pressures, and they are dealing with nearly like 450 degrees Celsius water temperature. So not only that, there is no light, there is no energy from the sun, and there is just basically superheated chemicals being spewed out of these hydrothermal vents. But despite all of that, there is actually around 600 different species that have been found to live in these environments, which is absolutely insane. Some examples include tube worms, which are those weird, slightly dodgy looking red worms, mollusks, snails, slugs, crabs, shrimps, and some fish have even been found to live in these insane places. The next spot goes to a worm which is known as lower, and this worm is so worm-like they named it twice, because lower literally translates into worm. So they live in the rainforests and the swamps of West Africa, and then they infect people through the bites of certain flies. So the flies bite you, and they transfer this worm parasite into your blood, into your body. Now, the worms actually crawl around and live under the skin of their victims, where they can live for 10 to 15 years just chilling under your skin, crawling around. Just, you wouldn't even know they were there necessarily, which is horrific. And they actually feed on the fluids in your tissues. Just so grim. They then lay their eggs in your blood, and then the little baby worms basically travel around your body, causing havoc. These babies actually, one of the places they live is in your spinal fluid. They live in your urine, and they also live in something called sputum, which I think is just actually my new favourite word. And I had to look it up to make sure I knew what it was, but it's basically all that mucus that's in your lungs and airways. So they live in your spine, your urine, and your lung mucus, and underneath your skin. And they live in your bloodstream when the sun is out, meaning you're more likely to get bitten and spread them further, which is really, really clever. But then they actually retreat into your lungs at night. These things are just messed up, honestly. They've even been seen to occasionally cross into your eyes, and I have seen a video of this, and there is literally a worm crawling around inside a person's eye, and you can actually see it. Just absolutely horrific. And of the countries that they are in, up to 40% of people have been infected by one of these worms at some point. So lower out there doing it for the worms. Disgusting. Pretty crazy. As if those ones weren't weird enough, we are getting to some really weird stuff right now, and this one gets a shout out as being possibly the most extreme one on the live. Now these guys are called tardigrades, and some of you might have heard of tardigrades before. They've become a bit more well known recently, and they are otherwise known as water teddy bears. These little microscopic teddy bears. Not quite, but now in theory they can live in outer space, which is mad. So these little cuties are basically, like, if you haven't seen one, look one up. I might put one here. Don't know if I'll ruin the video, but we'll see. They can live in just punishing heat and freezing temperatures, so they can live in temperatures as low as minus 272 degrees Celsius, all the way up to temperatures of over 150 degrees Celsius. That temperature range that they can live in is just beyond belief. And they can survive UV radiation and cosmic rays from outer space, and they can even survive in a vacuum where there is no oxygen. These are literally the conditions of outer space, and there is even some theories that might be where they came from, on some sort of weird asteroid. I don't know how well supported that is, but there is some genuine theories about that. Now, the crazy thing is, you can also find tardigrades in your garden, on a tree, on a patch of moss, on your building or windowsill. They can just almost literally survive anywhere. And it's most likely that when everything else on our planet has died, the dawn of the age of the tardigrades will begin, because they will be the only thing that can survive after everything else is dead. So they do have a little nifty trick up their sleeve as to how they do this, right? They essentially go into cryo-sleep. Like in all those sci-fi films, they go into stasis. But there's a name for it, and it's cryptobiosis, which is also a fantastic word. Tardigrade cryptobiosis. Is that an ASMR word? I don't know. Cryptobiosis, maybe. Anyway, so basically when the conditions are bad, they can eject 95% of the water from their body. They slow down their metabolism to basically nothing, so they're just existing in the base form that they can, and they form like this almost glass-like barrier of proteins around them, which protects them. Just absolutely crazy. And scientists have even proved that they can survive in space. So in 2007, dehydrated tardigrades were taken to space on a mission, and they were exposed to both vacuum and UV solar radiation for 10 days. So they were exposed to the conditions of space for 10 days. They were then taken back to Earth, and nearly 70% of them were reanimated by rehydrating them, creating these little weird Franken bears essentially. And in 2019, a capsule of tardigrades in this state actually crash landed on the moon. So there may genuinely be little tardigrades living on the moon, which is crazy. So these guys win, I think, the most extreme on our list of places today. So now we are getting to some proper weirdos, some proper weird creepy ones. So the next one is another crustacean called Simathoa exigua. I think that's how you say it. And it is the only known parasite that actually replaces an organ in the body of its victim. So basically it enters through the gills of the fish, and it bites on and attaches to the base of the fish's tongue using its little claws, and it severs the blood vessels in the fish's tongue, causing the tongue to necrose and essentially rot away and die from the lack of blood. So it's essentially ripped and eaten off their tongue. So the tongue withers away, and then the little crustacean attaches itself to the stub of the tongue where the tongue used to be in the mouth, and it then essentially acts as the fish's tongue from then on, and actually feeds on the blood of the fish and sometimes the fish's mucus from its mouth. So it is horrific. That is the stuff of nightmares. And unbeknown to you, a parasite crawls into your mouth, severs your tongue, and then lives permanently inside your mouth, and you don't even have hands to get it out. So, despite this just disgusting and disturbing life cycle, the parasite actually causes basically no other harm or damage to the fish. It just sits there, just casually, in its mouth, in place of its tongue, and that is it, and they can both just go on living. Just horrific to really think about that. If you are wondering why Whispering Baldy do know all of this weird stuff, well, it's because I actually have another YouTube channel which I tried before, called Gingerbeard Biology. I kind of hasn't really gone anywhere, so maybe if you are interested in this, go and show it some love. I basically talk about weird, interesting science like this, the top 6 parasites, weird places that animals live. I've done loads of other stuff, like I dress up in weird costumes, I made some gecko hands, I tried to emulate an ant's strength, I analysed the science of SpongeBob. If any of that sounds interesting, go and check it out, give the channel some love, and maybe it might go somewhere again. Here we are, my number one weird place which animals live. If you have got to this point so far in this video, you are a legend. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed. And maybe do all the likes and subscribes and all that stuff. ASMR and science, learn and relax. Do you like it? Hopefully you do. So, this last animal lives a pretty crappy existence. There's a little pun, you'll get that later if you stick around. The pearlfish has evolved to live inside a sea cucumber. Now, that alone is not a weird enough place for my number one spot. This fish lives inside its anus. It lives inside the anus of a weird, creepy sea cucumber. The most pearlfish that have been found inside a sea cucumber's special little Airbnb is 15 special little friends hiding out inside a sea cucumber's anus. Just insane. So how does it do that? Well, the first thing is it has to find a host, it has to find a sea cucumber, and they actually do that with their sense of smell. Now, step 2, they actually follow the current of water, because the sea cucumbers actually breathe through their anus, and there is a current of water that flows in and out. Now, step 3 is enter the aforementioned anus. So they swim inside, and they can go in head first, or they can go in tail first. So it's breathed in, and they've swum inside its anus. Now, a lot of the time they do kind of just casually live there, no fuss, no problems, just poking their little heads out. If you look up some pictures of it, it's just insane that this is a thing. However, some species are known to be parasitic towards the sea cucumbers, and they actually eat their gonads from the inside. Yes, their gonads is just the general genital bits. And they sometimes eat their other internal organs. Horrific. Nature is horrific. Now, I can't speak for everyone, but most people probably don't enjoy unwanted anal invasions. Maybe you do. I'm not going to judge. Anyway, so the sea cucumbers have a couple of defences. So one of them is called the Cuvierian tubules, and they basically spit out these sticky white threads from their bum, which is essentially part of their gut, which tangles up all of the prey. Tangles up all of the predators or the fish, and it lets the sea cucumber escape. And now that works against things like crabs and predators, but it doesn't work against the bellfish. So the sea cucumber has one last defense, and I'm going to leave you with one last thought in this video. Anal teeth. The sea cucumber has anal teeth. Now I'm going to be honest, Google this at your own discretion, but this is a genuine thing and it is science. So they have developed anal teeth as a defense to try and stop the bellfish from entering. So there we have it, my relax and learn ASMR. Was it ASMR enough? Was it learny enough? Interesting enough? Did I thread the balance, tread the line? Please let me know if you enjoyed it, if you learned something, if you liked the rambly whispering up close ASMR. And I would love to do more. Just let me know, and I hope you like and subscribe, and I hope to see you soon. Goodbye.